tomorrow, by the way, is World Maritime Day. Did you know that? Did you know that? And I'm sure you're saying to yourself, oh, all right, Pearson, it's just another day. No, it's not just another day. We are surrounded by our marine space, which is even bigger than this rock on which we live. And it's how that impacts us. How do we understand what is happening out there? How do we have a relationship with what's happening out there? And how do we use what we know so that we protect ourselves, our land space, so to speak? And so that's part of the work of the Barbados Meteorological Services. And so we're happy to have with us this morning senior meteorologist. We know her so well now. We hear her voice, particularly at this time of year, Samelka Jackman. Samelka, good morning.
Good morning, Pearson. Good morning, Barbados.
It is so good to see you yet again, indeed.
Yes, it is.
And she's brought along with her Henderson Kelman, who also worked with the Met Services, and we did not even know that there was a thing known as the electronics officer.
Yes, it is.
So you have a lot of explaining to do, sir.
Okay. Good morning.
But Samelka, let's put this into context because, again, a lot of times we just thought it was just meteorologists reading gadgets and telling us the forecast, but there's so many other areas to what you do.
Yes, definitely. And then especially when we talk about the marine space, a lot of Barbadians normally think of weather and just think about what's happening on the land. But Barbados marine space is quite large, larger than the island itself. And at the Met Office, we do marine forecasting for weather-related events. So that includes things that you hear about small craft advisories, so we do those warnings, as well as you listen to hear about what the swells are like, especially people going to the beach, but it's really critical for those marine operators and users to think about the fishermen for sure, and they definitely would have been impacted by Beryl and how that would have influenced stuff. You think about the port authority, all those ships coming in, whether these cruise ships or cargo, how they need to have that information regarding what's happening with the weather. Even then, if we move to other agencies such as like the Coast Guard and the police force, their marine unit, how they use that for search and rescue or other elements of their operations. So forecasting for the marine operations around Barbados is critical and really important, and we take it very serious at the Met Office.
And on a daily basis, you do so because you put out the bulletins every single day. So we know the tides, we know everything as it impacts our shoreline. Because our shorelines were, as you said, severely impacted during Hurricane Beryl and other natural disasters that occur. We also hear of a thing known as Kick 'em Jenny. Do you all also pay attention to see how the sea responds in situations like that?
Well, that isn't quite the weather element of the marine forecasting, but we are the focal point for tsunamis. So in the event that there is the potential impact for a tsunami to Barbados, we do issue the warnings or any alerts connected to tsunami. So that's our connection in relation to say something like Kick 'em Jenny.
So anybody would wonder, what do you all do? Because I could stand on shore and look and say, okay, the seas look a little rough. I could tell the change in tides. I could see all of those things with my natural eyes. Is that how you all do it?
Right.
Look out to the water and say, okay, it looks a little wavy, so I expect some high tides.
No. So when we look at the swells, there are a lot of elements that determine how the swell conditions would be. So like different weather features, you know about frontal systems in the US, we were in the snow and that kind of stuff. Those systems can generate high swells, especially those northerly swells that we get that are very hazardous to our west coast of the island. So those propagate far from the north in the Atlantic into our area, and those bring the conditions. You also have, say, tropical storms, again with the marine, with I would say with rainfall, you generally think about what's happening right over us. But with the marine, things all throughout the Atlantic, they propagate towards the island and they impact how our conditions are. So even things like when we start to talk about tropical storms or something like Beryl, part of the reasoning why we talk about the impacts early, and then you might hear a marine advisory earlier than you would hear a tropical storm advisory, is because like old people say and like the fishermen say, the sea picking up something.
Yes.
It really does. And then you need to start, and you get that before the actual event. So you need to be, that early warning has to be even earlier for the marine space so that they can make sure that they are safe.
So Henderson, how do you all see all of this? So what gadgets do you use so you can read what's happening out there on our waters?
Okay. First of all, morning Barbados and happy Maritime Day. How we read the instruments, how we read the weather. I will start a little bit from on land and then go to the sea, because before, I mean, on the land we have automatic weather stations, which we have all across the island. We have about 87 of those, and we take up all the information on the land. So we have that covered. We also have our flagship instrument, which is our radar. So moving into the land also and across the marine space, we pick up weather, any precipitation that we have, we can see that and we can forecast that early. So moving directly into our marine space now. About 2 years ago, maybe about 30 months ago, we start getting our USVs, which is our unmanned surface vessels.
Vehicles.
Yeah.
Surface vehicles.
Yes, vessels, because they're vessels. And we're taking these now out into our ocean, into our marine space, and we're monitoring the marine space. We look at things like our barometric pressure.
This is what you're talking about here on your screen,
Yes,
right?
this is it. As you can see it right
Yellow
here.
banana out to water.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we get critical parameters from that. You know, we get you was talking with Samelka about if we just look out and see what is going on, you know. These instruments will actually tell us exactly what is going on. So we get sea swells, we get the period, how fast they are coming, the height of them. As I mentioned, the barometric pressure, which is very key to our meteorologists. Wind speed, wind direction, all of these critical components we get, so we can put into our models and we can forecast a lot earlier.
From that thing out there in the water?
Yes, and actually we have two out now. We have 4 in all, but we have 2 on the water. One is about 400 kilometers to the east of the island, so we're just there. You know, our director, Sabu Best, he's just waiting on see if there's any instability that we can push it towards a storm or any inclement weather, so we can get a better idea of what's going on. We have a second one which is coming back into the island, but yes, those USVs are critical to our forecasting on the sea and in our marine space. Sorry.
They are unmanned, but they're controlled by you?
Yes, we control them. We all control them anywhere. By satellite, we control them. We can send them pretty much anywhere by GPS positioning. You can take them anywhere. They don't move quickly. They only move about 4 knots, which is about 7 kilometers or so. So you can sprint past one of them, but they don't need to move fast. But we can move it to wherever we want to get to it, and we can get key critical elements to feed back into our system.
It's just like drone control. So
it is. Actually, it is. It is a drone, a sea drone, pretty much. And yeah, we use this primarily, but along also, and going to a second part of the instruments that we use, our buoys, our weather buoys that we have now. We have about 30 of those weather buoys that we're going to put around our island. You know, the fishermen and the mariners will see them around the island. We are not trying to invade their favorite fishing ground. You know, we're just using those to collect key elements and key critical sea conditions that we can forecast in the early as to what is going on.
Data collection is at the center of all of this.
Yes.
Data collection. Did that data collection informs not just what you tell me today, but what you forecast as well?
Yeah, so these instruments, we saw at the Met Office the lack of instrumentation around the island, especially in the marine space. That's why we started to work with other partners that deal with the marine space. I know you guys will be talking to them. That's all is connected, that data connection. And it helps with the early warning system. So for the buoys, in instance, then you get a better idea, because 30 and Barbados is small, so that is a vast number of buoys around the island. You get a feel now, we could tell you with actual swell heights around Carlisle Bay, with the swell heights on the east coast, with the swell heights on the west coast, say about Forts and that kind of stuff. So you get that difference. So then you could see, well, okay, because we know that sometimes you go to the beach on the south, you go to Bronx Beach and it's fine, but then you go further north and it's not. So then you get that real-time information, not just the model information, which is kind of like a prediction. So that is really important, and it helps then our stakeholders, it helps the general public, it helps fishermen, to understand what's happening in different areas, and then they can plan accordingly or mitigate any impacts of the weather. With the drones as well, because we can take them so far out, the 400 kilometers to the east, we all know that Barbados is the furthest eastern Caribbean island. So then having data to the east as something is coming in, that gives us information regarding that, especially Henderson mentioned about the storms, that could give ideas of, okay, well, if we get in these kind of swell heights, 400 kilometers out, then what is the potential for closer to Barbados as the system comes closer, and then we could better prepare to help to mitigate those issues.
I'm getting so excited by listening to how you describe what you guys do.
Yes.
Why are the seas so much rougher on the east coast than on the west?
Well,
The rock blocking something?
so generally, the sea swells generally are connected, can be connected to the wind. So our wind normally comes from the east. You know, if you have a window from the east, if the rain is falling, that is the rain comes through that window, that idea. So because of that, it's the same concept with the sea. So the wind is pushing the waves, and then so you get in more stronger waves towards the east coast. But on the west now, which is the opposite direction, that is more sheltered.
Because land blocked a lot of that wind
yes.
speed. Okay.
So the sea actually has to kind of like, it wraps around. So you don't have that same direct impact. But something like, so the wind-driven waves, definitely from the east coast. Our swells are generally also normally easterly. But if you have, as I mentioned, the high pressure and that low pressure system to the north, when you get in those northerly swells, then it switches. So I think just example of the rain, you know, sometimes all the time the rain is coming through a particular window or side of the house, but then some days, not often, sometimes it comes through the other side, and then you realize, wait, I have a leak on this side.
Yes.
You didn't know because the rain was never coming from
we only
that
see that
side.
during stormy conditions when the wind change. Listen, I have to ask this. I have limited time. Why is it that I have a hot day today and I am in Christchurch and it's dry, but I'm hearing of thunderstorms in St. James and all of that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we call that localized activity.
But why they get it and I don't get it?
Yes, it's connection to how the land heats up versus the sea, and then you start to get this convection over the island. But it's a very small scale, so even though Barbados is small, it's only happening in a small area. Where that is located varies in relation to the wind direction. Most of the times, well, about the easterly direction of the wind, so most of the time it is on to the west of the island.
So in other words,
and
follow the wind.
Yeah, that is why we get it in that area.
Fair enough. I'm sure a lot of people have that same question. Why is it always happens to St. James and the north of the island, and the south is hot and dry? You can see the dark clouds over to the west. Oh boy, this is so fascinating, but this is all part of our approach to understanding our marine space and understanding weather. And so we're happy to have had with you today Samelka Jackman, who is Senior Meteorologist with the Met Services, and Henderson Kelman, Electronics Officer there with the Met Services as well. Thank you both. Thank you both.
Thank you for having us.
I would love to continue this conversation. There's so much more that we can ask because we're all curious about what you guys do and how you do it. But you have to end it there. Thank you all.
Thank you again.
All right.
Morning, morning, morning.